Chapter 22 Exercising Plant Fruit Ability. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Alright, let's do it, Rog told Sanji. Rog was itching to explore this ancient island. He needed to find new plants to modify with his own plant powers so he could create more weapons, plus, the island's dense jungle was the perfect place to really show off what his plant powers could do. This is gonna be awesome. Sanji, pack us some extra lunches. Luffy exclaimed, all hyped up. Oh, man, are these guys nuts? Usopp muttered to Nami, watching the scene unfold. I think they're just dying to get on that island, Nami sighed, looking resigned. Just when they hoped no one else would join, Vivi spoke up. If you're going to the island, I'll go with you, she said. Usopp and Nami stared at her, tears practically welling up in their eyes. Don't worry, I've got Karoo with me, Vivi added with a reassuring smile. Karoo, on the other hand, was so freaked out he couldn't even squawk. Sanji, taking it all in, announced, okay, so that's 3 pirate lunchboxes and 1 special, love lunch, for Vivi. Sanji, could you whip up Karoo's favorite drink too? The one he liked last time? Vivi asked. No problem at all. Sanji replied enthusiastically. Well, thank you, Vivi said. After a flurry of activity, Sanji finally had 4 lunchboxes and a drink ready to go. Luffy, you're on lunchbox duty. Sanji handed Luffy a backpack overflowing with food. Alright, let's get this show on the road. Luffy was the first one to jump ashore. Sanji and Vivi followed. Rog turned back to the 2 figures remaining on the ship, and said, you guys can come too. Hey, just so you know, I'm not staying behind because I'm scared. I'm guarding the Mary for Kaya, Usopp stammered, visibly shaking. Nami lightly touched her forehead and said, yeah, I'll stay here too. Zoro, of course, looked completely unconcerned. He leaned against the railing and said, I might head over later. I'll see how I feel. Alright, then, Rog replied. Rog, hurry up. Luffy yelled. Coming. Rog leapt off the ship, back on the Mary. Nami and Usopp were desperately trying to talk Zoro out of joining them. Meanwhile, Rog, Luffy, Sanji, and Vivi, riding on Karoo's back, were venturing into the ancient forest. They were surrounded by bizarre, prehistoric plants unlike anything they'd ever seen. Whoa, these plants are totally new. Luffy exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. Rog examined the strange vegetation and said, alright, let's put my powers to work. I'm gonna make some of these plants bear fruit. Awesome. Luffy and Sanji cheered. Alright, let's find a clear spot first. And try not to wander off, Rog instructed. They found a relatively flat clearing and waited for Rog to show off his abilities. Okay, here we go, Rog announced. This was going to require a major effort. Luffy and Sanji noticed that Rog's hands weren't just glowing green anymore. His entire body was emitting an intense green light. Under the powerful green glow, the surrounding plants began to surge with life, weeds shot up, and saplings became towering trees in the blink of an eye. Plants burst into bloom and rapidly produced fruit. Some plants grew to enormous sizes. Whoa, that's seriously fast, Luffy marveled. Rog, concentrating intensely, had beads of sweat trickling down his face. Finally, the surge of plant power subsided. Plants within 100 yards of them had grown at an accelerated rate. Some had far exceeded their normal size, even the weeds were up to their waists. Whoa, Roger, your power is amazing. Luffy shouted, running over to him. Rog looked around, realizing that he needed to train his abilities more often. He'd spent so much time sailing on the Mary that he hadn't been in a lush environment for ages. This was a perfect chance to practice. Really? I could even make the grass grow taller, Rog said. He activated his powers again and grew a patch of grass to over 30 feet tall. This is so much fun. You should try it on other plants. Luffy shouted gleefully. It's hard to find plants when we're sailing. And I can't let Nami's orange trees or Kaya's coconut trees get too big, or they'll damage the Mary. It's different here, though, Rog explained. For Rog, this was the perfect opportunity to cut loose. He would never risk letting orange trees grow too large on the ship. Hey, what's that? Looks like some kind of ancient durian tree, Sanji said, pointing to a nearby tree. Luffy spotted it too and said, durian. Sweet. Let's grab some. Luffy flung out his arm and snatched a durian from the top of the tree, even though it was 20 yards away. But this durian had a bright red shell. Looks yummy. Let's try it. Luffy said, about to take a bite of the red-shelled fruit. Hold on, let me check it first, Rog said. He took the durian from Luffy's hand. His hands glowed green as he examined the fruit. His plant powers could detect any toxins. After the inspection, Rog said, it's good to eat. Luffy tore open the outer shell of the red durian with his teeth and chewed on the pulp inside. Sure enough, the fruit inside was also red and tasted amazing. It's delicious. You guys gotta try it, Luffy said. Rog walked over to the tree and used a vine to knock down a few more durians. Not bad at all, Rog said, munching on the durian. Sanji, after tasting it, decided to offer a piece to Vivi. Vivi, here's a delicious tropical fruit. But before Vivi could take it, Karu, who was underneath her, reached up and gobbled it down. You jerk. Who told you to eat Vivi's durian? Sanji roared, his face turning red with anger. Huh, it's okay. I'll just get another piece, Vivi said with a smile. After Luffy had devoured several, he said, Rog, I'm still hungry. Can you grow some more for me? No problem. I'm thinking of growing a giant durian, too. Rog walked under a durian tree, placed his hands on the trunk, and channeled his plant powers. The tree began to grow rapidly, shooting up from a few feet tall to over 60 feet, the durian swelled to over 3 feet in diameter. Awesome. I'm gonna eat a giant durian. Luffy reached out and pulled down a durian that was over 3 feet wide. Chapter 23 The Controlled Triceratops. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Luffy ripped open the durian, and each section inside was as big as a pillow. This is enough to fill you up, Luffy said, grabbing a chunk and taking a bite. Sanji, rummaging in Luffy's backpack, added, we could stuff a piece in there if we opened it up. Nah, too much trouble. I'll just find another durian tree later, Rog replied. Sure you will, Sanji muttered. They were enjoying their durian feast when a sense of danger crept in. Something big was approaching through the nearby woods. A pack of behemoths with murder in their eyes fixed their gaze on Luffy and Rog. 3 thick, sharp horns on their heads were poised to charge. Gah! Kalu, sensing the threat with his animal instincts, squawked and looked around frantically. What's up with the duck? Sanji asked, giving him a sideways glance. Kalu. What is it? Vivi asked, noticing his strange behavior. Rog also felt something was off. Using his plant fruit powers, Rog knelt, placing a hand on the ground. Surrounded by flora, he could connect with the plants and sense any disturbances. He felt a group of massive creatures closing in. We're being watched, Rog stated. A moment later, the ground trembled. A dozen enormous Triceratops charged towards the 4 of them, and Kalu, Luffy, seeing the dinosaurs, exclaimed, whoa, rhinos with 3 horns. Those aren't rhinos, they're extinct dinosaurs. Triceratops. Rog corrected. How is this possible? Sanji said, looking around in disbelief. I noticed the creatures here are ancient. Many extinct species exist on this island. The climate and magnetic fields on the Grand Line are chaotic, preserving these ancient creatures on certain islands. This island has dinosaurs. Vivi explained, her expression grim. The Triceratops surrounded them from all sides. Historical and archaeological records say Triceratops were only 5 or 6 meters long, but these were over 10 meters in length, massive. Vivi, stay behind me. I'll protect you, Sanji declared, stepping in front of her. Luffy, excited, stretched his limbs and said, they wanna fight? Awesome. These Triceratops are attacking as a pack, Rog observed, guessing their strategy. The Baroque Works guys are here too. Are these Triceratops part of their attack? The Triceratops formed a circle around them, like heavy cavalry. They seemed to aim their 3 thick spears right at them. Roar! With a deafening roar, the Triceratops charged. Get out of the way. Rog shouted, whipping a vine upwards, using it to swing himself into the durian tree. Luffy, using his rubber abilities, grabbed Vivi and Karoo and pulled them up into the tree as well. Sanji leaped up after them. The Triceratops slammed into the tree trunk. Rog's plant powers had made the tree incredibly thick, taking 7 or 8 people to encircle it. Still, the impact cracked the lower trunk. Looking down, Rog noticed circular patterns on the dinosaurs' backs, yellow-green circles, the exact kind used by Baroque works Miss Golden Week, who could manipulate colors. Yellow-green was the color of friendship, meaning someone was controlling these dinosaurs. No doubt Miss Golden Week, paired with Mr. 3, was behind this. This method of controlling dinosaurs could create an entire army on this ancient island. Sanji, Luffy, don't you find this weird? Rog asked suddenly. What's up? Luffy responded. Look, those Triceratops have circle patterns on their backs. They didn't paint them on themselves, Rog explained. You think someone's controlling them? Sanji asked. Yeah, most likely someone from Baroque works, Rog replied. That makes sense. Baroque works is terrified of us, they want to get rid of us as quickly as possible, Vivi said, beads of sweat forming on her brow. The Triceratops resumed their assault on the tree. The durian tree shook violently, Kaloo squawking in terror. We can't stand here talking, we need to deal with this. Sanji yelled. Luffy, take Vivi somewhere safe, Rog instructed. You got it. Luffy replied. Also, if we attack, aim for the patterns on their backs, Rog added. You think those patterns are the key? Sanji asked. I feel like that's how they're being controlled, Rog explained. Sanji and Rog exchanged a look and said, okay. Luffy stretched his limbs and carried Vivi and Karoo to safety. Alright, time to fight. Rog declared. The giant durian tree finally gave way under the relentless assault. Rog grabbed a vine, tied it to a nearby tree, and swung to the ground. Sanji jumped down as well. Roar, the Triceratops roared in fury. This is a forest, you'll feel my power. Rog kept his eyes on the Triceratops, touching the ground with his hand. Green light emanated from his palm. Straw rope restraint. The weeds beneath the Triceratops' feet grew rapidly, tangling around their legs like ropes. The Triceratops roared and tried to pull free, but it was as if they were bound by twine. The weeds were now as tough and strong as well-made rope. The grass ropes would cut right through ordinary creatures, but these Triceratops were strong and resilient. They strained and eventually broke free. That didn't work for long. But this is a forest, I have other options. Rog looked around, he was at home in the woods. Just the thing. Rog spotted a thick, ancient tree nearby. He rushed to it, wrapping his arms around the trunk. Green light flashed intensely, radiating from his entire body. The ancient tree seemed to come alive, its thick roots began to pull free from the soil. Chapter 24 The King of the Forest. Dryad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The ancient trees sprouted human-like limbs in the blink of an eye, even eyes and mouths appeared on their trunks. King of the Forest, a Dryad. Rog used his plant-based powers to quickly transform a tree. Now, the tree served Rog like a towering tree spirit. The tree spirit lumbered toward the Triceratops. Roar. The Triceratops roared, angered by the tree spirit's presence, and charged. Let's see what this tree spirit can do, Rog said. Perched atop the tree spirit, Rog controlled the giant, ready for a fight. A Triceratops leaped forward, but the tree spirit swung its massive arms, grabbing the Triceratops by its thick horns. Think you're so tough, huh? Rog taunted. The tree spirit, with Rog directing it, hoisted the Triceratops, horns and all. Then, like a strongman tossing a bull, the tree spirit hurled the Triceratops away. The beast crashed to the ground with a resounding thud, dozens of yards away. Nice one, Dryad, Rog complimented. The king of the forest's power allows it to turn trees into tree spirits, but the strength of the spirit depends on the tree used and Rog's control. Transforming this ancient tree into a tree spirit took a massive amount of Rog's energy, but the tree itself was incredibly strong and sturdy. 2 more Triceratops charged in. Now wasn't the time to mess around. Rog knew that to stop them, he had to erase the symbol on their backs. The Dryad clenched its fists, spitting green sap onto them. Then, the tree spirit swung a fist, slamming it into the back of one of the Triceratops. The force knocked the beast down, and the symbol vanished. The tree spirit quickly struck another Triceratops. A heavy blow brought it down, and the sap successfully destroyed the symbol. The two downed Triceratops struggled to their feet. "The symbol's gone, it must have worked," Rog said, observing them. The hostile glint in their eyes was gone. They looked around, confused, then wandered away. "It really works," Sanji confirmed. With over 10 Triceratops still around, they needed to erase all the symbols to stop the attacks. After ensuring Vivi and Karoo were safe, Luffy rejoined Rog and Sanji. "Awesome! I wanna help!" Luffy yelled, excited. "We figured out that hitting the symbols on their backs stops them," Rog explained. "Can't we just knock them all out?" Luffy asked, clenching his fists. "We could, but it would take too long and wear us out," Rog replied. "Plus, Baroque Works is probably watching, waiting for an opening." "Okay, this time I'll have the tree spirit spit sap on their backs so you guys can smash the symbols." Rog commanded the tree spirit to charge the Triceratops. The tree spirit used its giant fists to fend off the beasts, while simultaneously spitting green sap on their backs. Luffy stretched his rubbery arms, leaping onto a Triceratops' back. He used his fist to combine the juice and destroy the pattern. A Triceratops charged at Sanji, who somersaulted onto its back. "Just gotta smash this thing, lucky the juice is just plant stuff." Sanji destroyed the symbol with a well-placed kick. Working together, they quickly destroyed the symbols on the backs of the remaining Triceratops. The beasts calmed down. Rog, Luffy, and Sanji watched as the dinosaurs returned to normal. "Their crazy momentum is gone. At least they won't attack us anymore," Sanji observed. Rog, still on the tree spirit, gazed at the Triceratops. They were no longer controlled by the yellow-green circle, but they were still powerful creatures. Sanji lit another cigarette. "I'm kinda hungry for some Triceratops meat now." "I wouldn't," Rog advised. "They're in a herd. We'd be facing another group fight, and Baroque Works might jump us while we're distracted." Sanji waved his hand dismissively. "Alright, I'll find something else to eat. And go get Vivi. Bring her here," Rog added. "Okay." Luffy replied. Luffy quickly retrieved Vivi and Karoo, bringing them to a nearby safe spot. "You guys were amazing. You drove them all away," Vivi exclaimed, seeing the Triceratops retreating. "Vivi, you and Karoo should stay with the tree spirit. It's safer up there than anywhere else," Rog instructed. Karoo stared, beak agape, at the towering tree spirit. The Dryad lowered its hand, and Vivi and Karoo climbed aboard. Soon, they were perched on the tree spirit's head. "You guys too, come on up," Rog called. "Okay." Luffy reached out. The group, 4 people and 1 duck, gathered on top of the tree spirit. "Great view. And it's safe," Sanji commented. "Let's eat lunch," Luffy declared. "I was about to say the same thing. Making this tree spirit worked up my appetite," Rog replied. "Didn't you just eat a durian?" Sanji asked. "That was before the battle. We need to refuel," Rog explained. "Yeah." Luffy pulled out his bento and started eating. "Hey, don't eat my lunch or Vivi's," Sanji protested. Perched atop the 30-foot tree spirit, they began their picnic. "Vivi, I wanted to ask you something," Rog said. Vivi responded. "You saw those symbols on the Triceratops' backs, right? Did Baroque Works do that?" Rog inquired. Vivi paused, thinking. "Yeah, there's a painter among the senior agents. Code name, Golden Week. She's the only non-devil fruit user. She can control living things with colors. And she works with Mr. 3. Someone controlling living things with paint, that's intense," Sanji said, mid-bite. Vivi nodded. "But I'm more worried about Mr. 3. He'll do anything to win. The two of them are the strongest combo in Baroque Works, besides Crocodile and Mr. Zero on Sundays. So they're planning something against us here," Rog mused. "Even the Going Merry isn't safe. And like you saw, they can control the dinosaurs. Anything on this island could be used against us, except plants. Right. Golden Week can only control humans and animals, Vivi agreed. Luckily, you can control plants. Creating that tree spirit proves how strong you are. Still, they have the advantage. They're hidden, and we're out in the open, Rog sighed. It makes things difficult. Chapter 25 The Pewter Armor on the Tyrannosaurus Rex. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let's head back to the melee later, Vivi suggested. Luffy sounded disappointed. Adventure's over already? Of course not, Sanji replied, but I need to rest first. Then we can figure out what's next. Plus, we can stock up on meat and fruit. And, that pirate lunch you made was awesome, Rog added. Sanji beamed at the compliment. Anything for you guys. But Luffy, quit inhaling everything, okay? Vivi, how did you like the bento? The four of them sat perched on the tree spirit's head, planning their next move. Meanwhile, in the ancient forest, a blanket was spread near a tree, complete with teapots, cups, and a basket of pancakes. Miss Golden Week, looking adorably childish, sipped tea and munched on a pancake. Mr. 3 stood nearby, arms crossed. Well, it seems those Triceratops we sent were taken down, Mr. 3 drawled. More like the patterns on their backs were destroyed, Miss Golden Week corrected. Mr. 3 looked at Miss Golden Week like she was a prized pet. So, while your ability can control them, those patterns are too vulnerable, Mr. 3 said with a smirk. He glanced at a massive Tyrannosaurus Rex nearby. Time to bring out the heavier artillery. Roar. The Tyrannosaurus Rex roared like a giant, ferocious bulldog. Then, it lumbered off toward its target. After watching it go, Mr. 3 eyed the teapot next to Miss Golden Week. You know, I prefer sitting in a chair, especially when drinking tea. The top of his three-shaped hair began to burn, and the white wax on his arms transformed into a chair on the ground. The chair solidified quickly, and Mr. 3 sat down comfortably. He picked up the teapot and poured himself a cup. See? You're eating way too fast. Kids are always so greedy for snacks. You should savor tea slowly. Back with Rog and Luffy, the group rode the tree spirit back the way they came. The view's amazing up here. Like sitting on the head of a giant. Luffy exclaimed. There probably are giants on this island. Remember those navigation logs Nami collected? They say there are castle-sized humans on this ancient island called Little Garden, Roger explained. Rog thought about the two powerful giant warriors, Dory the Blue Ogre and Broggy the Red Ogre. Now that those Triceratops were being controlled, maybe these two giants were, too. The tree spirit continued its trek through the forest. Suddenly, a roar echoed through the trees. What's that? Luffy asked, looking left. A dinosaur. The king of the dinosaurs, a Tyrannosaurus, Sanji said. Wait a minute, look at that Tyrannosaurus. It's wearing armor, Rog pointed out. The Tyrannosaurus's head, torso, and thighs were covered in thick white armor. Looks like they're controlling this one too, Vivi observed. The Tyrannosaurus roared angrily, then charged at them, legs churning. Rog directed the tree spirit to clench its giant fist and block the Tyrannosaurus's charging head. That's some serious power, Rog grunted. The tree spirit nearly lost its footing under the force of the Tyrannosaurus. Think you can eat us, huh? Take this. Luffy pulled his hands back and slammed them into the Tyrannosaurus's head. Gum gum rocket. The Tyrannosaurus stumbled backward, but its head remained unscathed. Huh? What the? Ow! Luffy shook his throbbing hands, which felt like they'd been hit with iron. Roar! The Tyrannosaurus spun around and swung its massive tail toward the tree spirit's head. The tree spirit raised its arms to block the attack. Sanji leaped into the air and kicked the Tyrannosaurus from the top of its tail. Tail meat. With a sickening crack, the Tyrannosaurus's tail broke. Roar! The Tyrannosaurus shrieked and whipped its head around to snap at Sanji. Watch out! Vivi yelled. The Tyrannosaurus moved fast, its jaws snapping shut around Sanji. He braced his feet against the inside of its enormous mouth, forcing it open. Tree spirit, now. Rog commanded, and the tree spirit smashed its fist into the side of the Tyrannosaurus's head. At the same time, Sanji spun his legs rapidly. Inside ground meat. Sanji's powerful legs pulverized the inside of the Tyrannosaurus's mouth, allowing him to escape. Blood and broken teeth sprayed from the Tyrannosaurus's mouth. That armor is really tough, almost like iron, Sanji said, landing back on the tree spirit. Gum gum Gatling. Luffy aimed at the Tyrannosaurus's body and unleashed a barrage of punches, but all they heard was the clang of metal, with no effect. Whoa, phew. Luffy panted, his hands were swollen and red from hitting the iron-like armor. Rog examined the Tyrannosaurus. Only its tail and the inside of its mouth had been damaged. Its head, torso, and thighs were still covered in armor. Vivi, that armor's actually wax if you look close. That's gotta be Mr. Three's handiwork, Rog realized. Right, the wax Mr. Three creates becomes as hard as iron when it solidifies, Vivi confirmed. Rog looked at the Tyrannosaurus. That's why there aren't any yellow-green circles on it. After painting on the pattern, they covered it with wax armor. That armor serves two purposes: it enhances the Tyrannosaurus's defense and protects the pattern. So, if we don't get rid of the armor, we can't destroy the pattern, Vivi summarized. Exactly. Rog agreed. So, all we have to do is destroy its armor, right? Luffy asked. But how? That stuff's as hard as iron, Sanji said, still catching his breath. Rog noticed the cigarette but near Sanji's mouth, and an idea sparked in his mind. We don't have anything like oil on hand. I need to find some oil-producing plants fast. Like palm trees or olive trees, Rog said. Just then, the Tyrannosaurus attacked again, slamming into the tree spirit. The tree spirit struggled to stay upright. Damn it, this Tyrannosaurus is strong, Rog said. Wait a minute, look. There's a palm tree over there, Vivi pointed out. Rog looked to the right and saw a palm tree a few hundred feet away. Okay, let's head there. But I need cover. Luffy, Sanji, I'm counting on you, Rog said. No problem. Luffy and Sanji replied. Rog steered the tree spirit toward the palm tree. Chapter 27 Dinosaur Meet Banquet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Night was falling. In the Going Merry's kitchen, Sanji was enthusiastically whipping up a feast with dinosaur meat and durian. Tyrannosaurus steak, bathed in a fragrant sauce. With a flourish, Sanji poured a delicious sauce, a blend of pepper, salt, soy sauce, sugar, and spices, over a plate of Tyrannosaurus steak. Braised Triceratops tenderloin, sprinkled with sesame seeds. He sprinkled sesame seeds onto a plate of red-hot, delicate dinosaur meat cut from a Triceratops. Durian platter, naturally delicious and ready to serve. Sanji surveyed the delicacies arranged on the table. Curry dinosaur rice, dinosaur fried meatballs, stewed dinosaur soup, looks pretty good, if I do say so myself. He arranged all the dishes on a pushcart dining table. Up on deck, Luffy, Usopp, and the others were raising a ruckus. Dinner time. Sanji rolled the table laden with dinosaur dinners out to everyone. Whoa, what a spread! Usopp exclaimed, eyeing the Tyrannosaurus Rex steak. Huh? He's already eating. Usopp watched as Luffy stuffed an arm-sized piece of Tyrannosaurus steak into his mouth faster than the eye could see. I gotta get in on this. Usopp grabbed a knife and fork and snagged his own arm-sized steak. This is amazing. Sanji, this dinosaur meat is so gamey and chewier than beef, Rog said, swallowing a large bite. Sanji grinned. Ancient creature meat, huh? It's got that wild flavor. I'll have to compare it to Neptune's meat sometime to see which is better. Hey, no booze on this ship. Zoro grumbled between mouthfuls of braised Triceratops. Vivi, Nami, help yourselves, Sanji said, completely ignoring Zoro and focusing on the two ladies. Zoro, I've got some rum ready. Let's have a toast, Rog said, pulling out 2 bottles. Vivi, ever dignified, carefully cut her dinosaur meat and fed some to Karu. Nami hesitated, looking at the dinosaur stew that Sanji had personally served her. Eating dinosaurs, that's a new one, Nami finally said, taking a bite. Under the moonlight, the Going Merry was ablaze with light, hosting a joyful dinosaur feast. Rog's Tryant stood guard nearby, a behemoth strong enough to fend off most attackers. Luffy, mid-chew, glanced at the Tryant and asked, "Hey, does that guy need to eat or drink?" Rog lowered his rum bottle. "Nah, it's a plant. It just needs water and soil." Usopp swallowed his meat. "Really? But will it keep doing this? The Forest King Tryant I created can stay active for a while, but it'll eventually lose mobility. It'll be good for a few days, though. It's not fully autonomous, I still need to control it most of the time," Rog explained. "Whatever, as long as it looks scary," Usopp said. "Whoa, durian, too. Gotta cleanse the palate," Luffy said, grabbing a giant durian after consuming a mountain of dinosaur meat. After much eating and drinking, the banquet finally wound down. Everyone lay on the deck, gazing at the sky. The night sky above Taigu Island was brilliant. Aside from the heat, the scenery was incredible, filled with mystery. Rog and Sanji started chatting. "You think there's more than just the one wax-armored dinosaur we saw today, right?" Sanji asked. "That's what I'm worried about. This island is crawling with dinosaurs. They must have put some more in that wax armor. Even if we can destroy them, it'll still be a pain. But honestly, there's something else that worries me more about this island," Rog said. "What's that?" Sanji asked. "Take a look at this." Rog handed Sanji a book. "Isn't this one of Nami's?" "Huh. This page." Sanji started reading. "On Ancient Island, this dangerous place is like a small garden to its inhabitants. Because the real owners here are two giants, they're power enough to destroy everything. After I finish telling you this, I'm afraid I'll be the first person to survive and escape this island." After reading carefully, Sanji said, "You're talking about those two giants?" "Yeah. If they can control dinosaurs, they probably control those giants too. And those giants have incredible power, yet we haven't seen a trace of them. That's suspicious. If Baroque Works unleashes them on us, we're in for a world of hurt," Rog said. "Of course, maybe the explorer was exaggerating. But we should be extra careful," Sanji said. Rog chuckled. "Bet you're just trying to look brave to protect the ladies." "Naturally," Sanji said, proudly lighting a cigarette. "You can't go a minute without a smoke, Zoro can't go without booze, and Luffy can't go without meat," Rog said, joking. "And Usopp's always bragging, Nami's always thinking about money, and Vivi's always thinking about her country. What about that duck? Karu is always quacking," Sanji added. "What about me?" Rog asked. "You're always sprouting something," Sanji said. They both laughed. Under the moonlit sky, everyone drifted off to sleep. The Tryant stood guard beside the Going Merry. Deep in the jungle, inside a white wax hut, Mr. 3 and Miss Golden Week sat at a table, drinking tea. "This is beyond my expectations. Their strength is considerable. They even discovered the weakness of my wax. We'll have to rethink our battle plan." Mr. 3 sipped his Earl Grey. Miss Golden Week munched on pancakes, carefree. Mr. 3 handled the battle worries. "We know where their ship is, but with their strength, even a nighttime raid is unlikely to succeed. And they could just sail away. So, we can't alert them tonight. Besides, it'll take a year for this island's magnetic field to recharge, so we have time." Mr. 3 said, his eyes gleamed with criminal intelligence. "Then tomorrow, we'll lure them onto the island, set traps, and crush them. If we can't win with force, we'll use deception. An excellent criminal relies on his brains. Right, Miss Golden Week?" "Mr. 3, I'm out of tea," Miss Golden Week said. "Can't you make it yourself?" Mr. 3 snapped, but then, he was lost in his criminal master plan. "Fine, I'll make it." Making Earl Grey is like a perfect crime. Amateurs can't get it right. Chapter 28 The Attack of Mr. 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As dawn broke on the ancient island, the sun climbed out of the eastern sea, bathing the island and going merry in a soft, golden light. On the deck, Luffy popped up, stretching wide. Morning, he announced, immediately. His stomach grumbled loudly. Sanji. Chow time. Luffy yelled, scanning the area for the cook. Sanji was already busy on the shore, slicing up the leftover Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops meat from the day before. Alright, Rog, have your tree dude dunk these in the sea for a bit, then hang them on the sail to dry, Sanji instructed, gesturing towards the cut-up dinosaur meat. Got it, Rog replied, directing the tree spirit to pick up the meat and lumber towards the beach. Sanji flicked away his finished cigarette, lit a fresh one, and eyed Luffy. You're up. We're making bacon, so lend a hand, then you can eat. Luffy whined, come on, I'm starving. If you don't feed me, I'll just eat last night's scraps. You polished off all the leftovers, Sanji pointed out, shaking his head. Oh, right, Luffy muttered, deflated. Just then, Rog's tree spirit returned to haul the rest of the dinosaur meat. Luffy, you're just hangry. I grew some durians on a tree nearby this morning. Check the net over there, Rog said. Luffy's face lit up, and he zipped ashore. You're the best. Zoro, mid-workout on the beach, watched Luffy devour his durian. Lucky bum, he grumbled. Usopp and Karu, the super speedy duck, strolled along the shore as well. With Zoro around, no nasty dinosaurs dared to approach, so the brave sea warrior could roam freely. Nami stood on the deck of the Going Merry, surveying the surroundings. Vivi leaned against the coconut trees at the stern, lost in thought. The civil war in Alabasta was still raging, and Vivi's heart ached for her homeland and her father. She couldn't help but worry about King Nefertari Cobra, her kind and just father. What kind of situation was he facing? The conflict had reached a fever pitch, a brutal war of attrition between the rebel and royal armies. Vivi feared a decisive battle that would leave both sides decimated, allowing Crocodile to swoop in and take advantage. The thought made the strong, brave princess yearn to return to Alabasta immediately. Hey, Miss Vivi, Sanji called out, interrupting her thoughts. Vivi glanced at the handsome, blonde cook, a smile flickering across her face. Sanji, how long do you think we'll be stuck here? Sanji looked back towards the deck. Nami, any idea how long we'll be here? It's gonna take a while, I'm afraid. A permanent log pose to Alabasta would be a godsend, Nami sighed. Yeah, a permanent log pose would be amazing. I wish we could get one, Sanji agreed. Actually, there's another option, Rog said, jumping down from the tree spirit's head. We could leave this island and start exploring towards Alabasta. Even if we just find another inhabited island, we might find a way out. Vivi and Nami exchanged glances. If we can't get a permanent log pose and it's going to take a long time, we should leave, Vivi said decisively. I'm with you. This island is creepy, Nami added, raising her hands in agreement. Despite the risks, staying on the ancient island with its hidden dangers was not an option. Rog, despite wanting to fight 3, acknowledged the urgent situation. Even if 3 had a permanent log pose, he was probably setting traps all over the island. Everyone, back to work. I'll whip up some tropical breakfast later, Sanji announced. All right. Above the ancient island, a flock of pterodactyls gathered. Each dinosaur had the yellow-green SS Golden Week friendship pattern painted on their bellies. 3 sat atop a pterodactyl. From his vantage point, he had a clear view of the entire island, the constantly erupting volcano, the vast lake at the island center, the towering Bone Mountains, and the endless ancient forest. SS Golden Week is pretty good, I have to admit. And since you dinosaurs are loyal friends of SS Golden Week, you're my friends too. So, you'll obey my commands without question. Point 3 said boastfully, though his face betrayed a hint of nervousness. Flying wasn't exactly his thing, even if he trusted the pterodactyl implicitly. Being up in the air was a bit scary. Yesterday's preparations are complete. No room for hesitation. The island's magnetic storage is full for 1 year. They'll want to leave ASAP, so they're definitely not staying a year. They'll probably head straight for Alabasta, which means I need to strike first. Point 3's face twisted into a sinister grin. Force them to play a death game. He glanced around at the pterodactyls, a wave of relief washing over him after speaking his plans aloud. Even SS Golden Week barely paid attention to his plans, she just painted whatever he asked. But 3, being a criminal mastermind, needed to vocalize his thoughts. He spotted his target near a river in the southern part of the island, the Going Merry. Alright, time to launch the attack. Grab some bait, and lure them into the death game. 3 stood on the pterodactyl's back. No one expects an aerial assault. Consider this a deterrent. The 3 atop his head began to burn, and the white wax on his arms started to flow. Candle Espada, a massive, 10-meter-long candle sword took shape and hurtled towards the Going Merry. The sword solidified rapidly, becoming as hard as steel. Rog, who was on the shore, was ready to rest when he noticed an enormous object plummeting toward the Merry. Look out! Rog directed the tree spirit to shove the Merry out of the way. The ship was pushed out of harm's way thanks to the tree spirit's tremendous strength. The candle sword slammed into the tree spirit. Chapter 29 Nami and Usopp are kidnapped. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rog, perched on the Dryad, found himself a hair's breadth from a sword plummeting from above. Damn! Could he be here? He leaped off the tree spirit in a flash. Miss Nami. Miss Vivi. Sanji took to the air, desperate to reach them. Luckily, the Merry was shoved aside by the tree spirit just in time, and Nami and Vivi were safe. We're okay. Vivi assured. Nami, eyeing the massive sword embedded in the tree spirit, gasped, holy crap, that was close. Zoro scanned the sky, spotting dozens of pterodactyls. The attack's coming from the air. He gripped his sword hilt. Luffy, following Zoro's gaze, noticed markings on the pterodactyls' bellies. Hey, those guys are being controlled too. Usopp pushed up his goggles, peering into the sky. Looks like someone's riding them. Rog stared at the fallen tree spirit, the forest king impaled by the 10-meter sword, a fatal blow. Looks like you finished your job, Rog said. He looked up at the swarm of pterodactyls, those with yellow-green circles on their undersides hundreds of meters above. Damn it! How dare they mess with Miss Vivi and Miss Nami? Sanji snarled, his eyes fixed on the sky. A drawn-out voice echoed from above. Well, if it isn't the pirates. You guys are just kids, aren't ya? A man with a 3 emblazoned on his clothes stood atop one of the pterodactyls. Number 3 had officially made his appearance before the Straw Hat Pirates. 3, you finally showed your face, Vivi said, her gaze unwavering. 3-eyed Vivi with a sly grin. Princess Vivi, you seem awfully wary of me. I can practically smell your fear. Today, you and these pirates are gonna learn what fear really is. So, that tree spirit, and the brown-haired kid who summoned it. You've got a devil fruit ability too, huh? 3 inquired. Yeah, I'm a fruit user. A plant-based one. Rog declared, standing beside the tree spirit's remains. Interesting. I'd love to add abilities like yours to my collection. But that'll take time. He then addressed the surrounding pterodactyls. Okay, attack as planned. The pterodactyls, over 20 strong, obeyed, diving towards the ground. Oh, crap. They're coming. Usopp screamed, his eyes wide with terror. The pterodactyl swooped down on the Straw Hats. 3, circling overhead on his mount, waved his hands, and a stream of white candle wax flowed out. The wax quickly solidified into 2 massive clubs. Candle mace. Point 3 hurled a club at Luffy. Whoa, that's one strong mace, and made of candles. Luffy exclaimed. It's not over yet. 3 called out, still on his pterodactyl. More wax poured from his arm, forming a 20-meter-long spear. The spear plunged toward Zoro. Zoro barely dodged. Didn't expect him to make such a solid weapon out of wax, Zoro remarked after deflecting it with Yubashiri. the pterodactyls began trying to capture the straw hats. One lunged at Sanji. "You! How dare you scare Miss Nami!" Sanji exploded with speed and force, scaring the pterodactyl that dared come close. Wing meet. Sanji soared upward, aiming a kick at the pterodactyl's wing. The wing, its weak spot, shattered under Sanji's attack, sending the beast spiraling down. Two more pterodactyls swooped down on Zoro. Eagle wave. Zoro unleashed 2 slashes of air from his swords, felling the pterodactyls like a flying eagle. 3 targeted Luffy. "Whoa, you guys really like me. Bring it on." Gum Gum Gatling. Luffy unleashed a flurry of blows, knocking the pterodactyls out of the sky. Rog found himself under attack by 3 more. "Alright, Cane Whip series." Rog swung a vine whip, now as thick as a ship's cable. Its thickness, flexibility, and strength were vastly improved. The whip snaked around the necks of the 3 pterodactyls, like a rancher corralling cattle. "Okay, Cane Whip chokehold." The vines tightened, crushing the pterodactyls' necks. The sickening sound of cracking bones filled the air as the 3 pterodactyls plummeted to the ground, but more were closing in on Vivi, Nami, and Usopp. "Crap, they're really going after Vivi." Rog realized. "How dare you mess with Nami!" Sanji yelled, charging towards the pterodactyls. 3, observing the chaos, smirked. "Fine, if big weapons don't work, let's see how you handle the small ones." The 3 in his hairstyle began to burn, brighter than before. Candle sword rain. A staggering amount of wax flowed from his arm, this time forming hundreds of razor-sharp daggers. The white daggers rained down. "Damn it! Too many daggers!" Sanji roared. "He's trying to pin us down." Rog realized, as the 4 strongest straw hats were preoccupied, the pterodactyls seized Nami. "Ah! Let me go!" Nami screamed. "Hey, don't grab me. I've got 10 million guys who'll come after you." Usopp was also snatched up. A pterodactyl grabbed Vivi around the waist. "Not a chance." Vivi desperately swung her peacock slasher, severing the pterodactyl's claws. She landed safely as Karu shielded her. Rog, Sanji, Luffy, and Zoro were already racing to her aid. "Retreat!" 3 ordered. "Damn it! Let Nami and Usopp go!" Luffy shouted. He launched a Gum Gum bazooka at the pterodactyl holding Usopp, but at the last second, another pterodactyl took the hit. "What?" Luffy was stunned. Vine whip. Rog launched his whip at the pterodactyl snatching Nami, but another intercepted it. "They're covering each other." Rog observed. 3, perched high above, launched another candle sword rain. The hail of sharp daggers forced the 4 to retreat. The pterodactyls used the opportunity to gain altitude, reaching hundreds of meters beyond reach. "Listen up, pirates. Very good, very good. I've got these 2 now. If you want them back in one piece, get to the island in the middle of the lake before sunset." Point 3, triumphant, shouted from his perch on the pterodactyl. Chapter 30 Heading to Lake Island. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Asshole. He actually snatched Nami. Sanji roared, pissed. "Ha ha ha. You should be good and angry. Your death game is about to begin." 3's voice faded away. "That island in the middle of the lake, he's gotta have traps laid all over the place." Zoro said. Everyone looked at Luffy. The guy who's always laughing was dead serious now. "Lake Island, let's move. We gotta rescue Nami and Usopp." Luffy said, his voice hard. Luffy values his friends above all else. Kidnapping someone's crewmate to pull off a scheme? That's low. Alright, let's get going, everyone. "Hey, Vivi, you okay?" Rog rushed over to Vivi, who was being protected by Karu. "I'm fine. But I'm going with you to rescue Nami and Usopp." Vivi, a princess and tough as nails, replied. Luffy glanced at the others. "No problem. Let's go. To give us a real edge, I'll whip up a partner that can help us deal with whatever he throws at us." Rog headed towards the front, the others followed, watching as Rog stopped in front of a palm tree. he put his hands on the tree, and a bright green light engulfed him. "Awaken, Forest King, Dryad," that the palm tree shot up, becoming a massive tree so thick it would take 7 or 8 people to wrap their arms around it. Then the transformation began, thick limbs sprouted from the trunk, and finally, huge eyes and a mouth formed in the center. The palm tree had become the Forest King, a Dryad. This tree spirit was bigger and stronger than any before. The green light faded from Rog, and he let out a long breath. "Alright, hop on. It'll be faster this way." Deep in the ancient island's dense forest, the massive tree spirit carried 5 people and a duck toward the lake island. Standing on the Dryad, the 5 looked ahead. In the distance, on the island in the middle of the lake, were their kidnapped friends. At the same time, on the lake surrounding the island, a group of pterosaurs flew triumphantly above the island. Nami, Usopp, held captive by a pterosaur, cried out. "There's nothing we can do. No way we can escape like this." Nami looked around, frantic. The pterosaurs carried them to the island in the center of the biggest lake. "Alright, we're here. Drop them off." 3 ordered from the back of the pterosaur. The pterosaur released its claws, and Nami and Usopp were tossed onto the island. "Ouch! Could you be any rougher?" Nami yelled at the departing pterosaur. Usopp looked around, spotting a small castle made of white candles. A huge candle carving of the number 3 stood atop the castle. "Ha ha ha, welcome to my castle." Point 3 dismounted from his pterosaur. The sinister man looked at Nami and Usopp with a smug grin. "Who told you you could kidnap us?" Nami demanded. "Kidnap Captain Usopp, will you? I got 1,000,000, no, 10,000,000 men on their way." Usopp bluffed. 3, hands behind his back, said, "A perfect crime requires bait. Hence, the invitation. But I have some excellent Earl Grey tea. Care for a cup? Take this, my special move, Flame Star." Usopp pulled out his slingshot and fired a flaming shot. 3 waved his arm, conjuring a wall in front of him. The flame star hit it, doing no damage. "Idiot. Even if it hit, we're trapped. We're in danger." Nami punched Usopp. 3 walked around the candle wall, saying, "You'd be wise not to resist. He won't kill us yet. He's using us as bait. We just gotta hold out and try not to get hurt." Nami whispered to Usopp. 3 called out toward the castle, "SS Golden Week, tea, please." "Okay." A childlike voice answered. Nami and Usopp watched a cute little girl emerge from the castle. She wore a sun hat, 2 round red spots painted on her cheeks, and little braids. She carried a basket. The 3 hairstyle on his head began to melt. White candle wax poured out of his arms and hardened into a table and 4 chairs. "Alright, SS Golden Week, tea for our guests," 3 instructed. SS Golden Week opened the basket, taking out a teapot, teacups, and pancakes. She arranged them on the candle table. Usopp gritted his teeth, looking at SS Golden Week. A little girl working for them. Point 3 sat down. "Please, have a seat." He started pouring tea from a fancy teapot. SS Golden Week also sat and started drinking tea and eating pancakes. "I want to chat." "Don't be shy." 3 said. Usopp scoffed, "You kidnap us, then act polite." "I can't get enough of Earl Grey." "Why did I kidnap you?" "Criminal masterminds need someone to confide in, even if it's the enemy." 3 said, sipping his tea. Actually, 3 often confided in SS Golden Week, but that was like talking to a pet. After hiding on this island for so long, he felt the need to chat with anyone. The pterosaurs continued circling above the lake and nearby area. "Fine, I'm tired, too. Let's chat." Nami Saturday. Usopp stayed standing, but his arms were tired from being held by the pterodactyl. "Whatever, I'll sit." Usopp folded his arms, glaring at 3 as he Saturday. 3 sipped his tea, began sharing his thoughts. "This island is scorching. So many dinosaurs. The strongest are under my control. And I have 2 trump cards." Nami's eyes widened. "Trump cards?" "Yep. Two monsters that can destroy everything. About 10 days ago, I found two giants rampaging on the island. Long ago, there was a pirate crew of giants. Their leaders, the East Ghost Tori and Red Ogre Brokey, were legendary. They vanished 100 years ago. But here they were, still dueling. I trapped them and used SS Golden Week's powers to control them. It took a lot of effort, but now they're my trump cards. SS Golden Week chimed in, it took 2 buckets of paint to control them. Chapter 31 The King of the Forest is Unstoppable. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 3 Set the teacup down. So, even if your friends beat our Dino army, they'll still have to deal with those 2 superpowered guys. Nami and Usopp exchanged worried glances. Aren't you gonna drink your tea? 3 asked. Meanwhile, Luffy and Rog, perched atop the tree spirit, were headed toward the island in the middle of the lake. Zoro, arms crossed, kept a sharp eye on their surroundings. Gotta admit, even with the stakes, the view's pretty amazing, Zoro commented. They were surrounded by ancient forests, with 2 massive peaks guarding the island. In the distance, a volcano rumbled, occasionally spewing ash. And in the center of it all, a huge lake held an island in its heart. Dude, our friends' lives are on the line. Who's got time to sightsee? Sanji snapped. Wasn't sightseeing, just scanning for trouble. Enemies love ambushes, Zoro shot back. Rog glanced at Luffy, who had been unusually serious but now seemed more relaxed, a confident grin on his face. He wasn't angry, just determined to win. This island is something else, that's for sure. And we're gonna save Usopp and Nami, Luffy said, plopping down on the tree spirit's head. Rog watched the ever-optimistic Luffy, admiring his unwavering spirit. Vivi, her face set with determination, remained silent. She felt responsible for Nami and Usopp being in danger, since they were escorting her. Step on it, tree spirit, Rog urged. The tree spirit picked up the pace, lumbering closer to the lake. Hold up, something's moving, Zoro said, sensing danger. Suddenly, dozens of Triceratops burst from the jungle, about 30 of them. Rog noticed they were covered in white, waxy armor. Looks like heavy cavalry. Whoa, they're wearing the same armor as that T-Rex. Luffy exclaimed. And there's a ton of them. We can't break that armor without fire, Sanji noted. Rog, though, looked confident. Don't sweat it, I've got a plan. Oh, yeah? Sanji asked skeptically. The Triceratops charged, their armor as tough as steel. Rog had the tree spirit open its mouth and spray a torrent of liquid. The liquid hit the first 5 Triceratops square on. Grab some leaves from the tree spirit, light 'em up, and toss 'em. Sanji, your cigarette butts will work too, Rog instructed. Sanji took the cigarette from his mouth, finally understanding. Got it. He flicked the butt at a Triceratops, which immediately burst into flames. The white wax armor melted away. Alright, so it works like before, Luffy said. Tree spirit, keep spraying that oil. Rog commanded. The tree spirit continued to spew the thick, oily liquid. Soon all the Triceratops were coated. Let's speed this up. Luffy, need your help, Sanji said, quickly gathering some twigs from the tree spirit's head and lighting them with his lighter. Throw these. Luffy grabbed the burning branches. No problem. Rubber darts. He whirled the flaming branches, hitting the Triceratops one after another. The oil-soaked dinos went up like torches, and the surrounding forest started to burn too. There's a reason I chose a palm tree to transform into a tree spirit. It shoots palm oil, Rog explained. The wax armor melted rapidly, leaving a puddle of waxy goo on the ground. So, we don't even have to fight them, huh? Zoro asked. Many of the Triceratops had their back markings destroyed, but some were still intact. Take out the ones that are still blocking the path, Rog ordered. 7 Triceratops were still controlled by Golden Week's patterns. Rog directed the tree spirit forward. The Triceratops charged, but the tree spirit punched the closest one to the ground. Zoro slashed with his swords, Sanji kicked, and Luffy punched, clearing the way. Soon, the remaining Triceratops were down, and they continued forward at full speed. Suddenly, the ground shook. What was that? Zoro asked. A massive, long-necked dinosaur blocked their path. Whoa, check out that neck! Luffy exclaimed. Rog saw a Brachiosaurus, as big as a hill, glaring at them. Scars covered its head, making it look ferocious. Compared to the Triceratops, this Brachiosaurus was a behemoth, dwarfing the 10-meter-tall tree spirit. Huge. But no wax armor, Rog noted. The Brachiosaurus roared, shaking the earth. More earth-shaking sounds echoed nearby. Rog and Sanji saw a dozen smaller brachiosaurs lumbering toward them. They moved slowly, but their size was still intimidating. Looks like we're in for a fight. Gotta find those patterns, or we're in for a serious brawl, Rog said. They couldn't tell where the patterns were on these giants. If they were on their bellies, it would be a real problem. Just gotta hit M. I gotta save Miss Nami. Sanji shouted, cracking his knuckles. For Sanji, nothing mattered more than his love for Nami. Chapter 32 Arriving at Lake Island. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rog eyed the herd of brachiosaurs. They were behemoths, huge as hills. Fighting them would take forever. These aren't pushovers. We'll need to go all out, Rog said. Luffy was already pumped. So many. We can beat M up good. Actually, I've got a better idea, Rog said. What is it? Those guys are gonna block our way, Sanji asked. Rog pointed to the largest brachiosaur, the one with a scar on its head. That's our target. Taking out their leader will throw them into chaos. It'll be like they're headless. Zoro also noticed the scarred brachiosaur. Yeah, the leader's the key. So, we just gotta beat the biggest one, Luffy concluded. We're definitely fighting these brachiosaurs, but their size gives them an advantage. If we take out their leader, they'll become passive, Rog explained. The brachiosaurs were gathering, the scarred one at the front, roaring angrily at the tree spirit and Rog. Alright, you long-necked freaks. If you try to stop me from saving Nami, I'll kick you all the way to next week. Sanji yelled. The brachiosaurs roared back, even louder. Hey, Cook. They're not listening, Zoro said. Damn it. Sanji exclaimed. Vivi looked at Rog. Rog, your abilities are really important here. We need to hurry, so it's up to you. No problem. Wherever there's a forest, I'm in my element, Rog replied. These brachiosaurs didn't have any wax armor, so the tree spirit form wasn't a huge advantage. Rog's body began to glow with an intense green light, channeling the plant fruit's power to its max. He could instantly see every plant type and its density in the area. Alright, some of these plants can help us deal with these big guys, Rog said. The tree spirit strode closer to the brachiosaur herd. The brachiosaurs stretched their necks, trying to attack the tree spirit and Rog directly. Ground thorn attack. Thick thorns suddenly erupted from the ground around the feet of the three front brachiosaurs, piercing their flesh. Roar. The brachiosaurs roared in agony, and the three in front started colliding with each other in their pain. Wow, thorns as thick as buckets are growing out of their feet. Luffy exclaimed, surprised. We're only targeting the leader. Just disrupt the others, Rog said. Using this tactic, Rog manipulated the ferns to grow into thick ground thorns, harassing the brachiosaurs. They made it to the front of the scarred leader. Roar. The leader let out a terrifying roar. Okay, time for a direct attack, Rog announced. Got it. Luffy replied. Luffy aimed his hand at the brachiosaur's head, his arms stretching rapidly. Here I come. That he used his extended arms to reach the giant's head. Once there, Luffy stood on the brachiosaur's head. Hey, big guy. I'm challenging you. Luffy raised his fist, delivering a powerful punch to the behemoth's head. The brachiosaur screamed as it was hit, but it was huge, so it wasn't going down easily. Not yet. Rog pulled out a thick sapling he'd prepared. Giant ironwood sword. Under the green light, the sapling in Rog's hand grew quickly, turning into a 10-meter giant sword, as hard as steel. That's huge. Can you even carry it? Zoro asked. Oh, I definitely can't, Rog said with a wry smile. Then why conjure it up? Zoro complained. It's for him, right, tree spirit. Rog looked at the tree spirit at his feet. The tree spirit grasped the giant ironwood sword. Looking like a berserker, the tree spirit charged toward the brachiosaur. The giant ironwood sword swung, aiming for the brachiosaur's front right leg. Flesh and blood flew as the brachiosaur's leg was severely injured, throwing it off balance. Not done yet. Left front leg. The tree spirit swung the giant ironwood sword again, targeting the left front leg. The brachiosaur, taking a huge hit, knelt forward. Now it's up to you and Luffy to take him down for good, Rog said. No problem, Sanji and Zoro answered. They jumped, Zoro drawing his sword, and Sanji aiming a kick at the brachiosaur's neck. Luffy, who'd been struggling with the brachiosaur, landed another punch. Under the combined assault, the leader finally fell. Sure enough, with the leader down, the remaining 10 brachiosaurs were thrown into chaos. Tree spirit, hurry. Rog urged. The tree spirit carried them away from the confused brachiosaurs. After a long journey, they finally reached a wide lake. Is this it? Zoro asked. Yep, look at that island, Rog said. In the middle of the lake was a small island. What? There's a building there, a small castle, Sanji pointed out. On the island was the wax castle. Nami and Usopp are there. Vivi said. We're coming to save you. Luffy shouted. The sun was setting, and some pterosaurs were still flying around the island. Suddenly, Rog and Luffy spotted 2 massive figures walking toward them. Both were human-shaped and over 20 meters tall. Giants! Sanji exclaimed. They were Dory and Broggy. Sitting on Broggy's shoulder was a man in a sleeveless tuxedo. Mr. 3, seeing the tree spirit, Rog, Luffy, and the others, Mr. 3 smiled wickedly. After all that trouble, I have to say, you pirates are quite capable. But enough talk. This is the final test you face. Seeing the 2 giants, everyone stared at the behemoths. Rog, Zoro, and Luffy could feel the intense killing intent radiating from them.